Hi, everybody. I'm Leanne Shinton, and I own Pet Biz Experts, a CRM software company for dog trainers. And I started this podcast because we want to find others like me who want to help dog trainers. And Erica Boling stands out so much because I see so much stuff online, and it's canine conditioning, but so much more. And I've reached out to you before to try and get some of my clients some help of things that you're an expert in. So I had to have you on. I'm so happy that you're here. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to come and connect and talk about a variety of topics with you.
Awesome. And you're up in Maine, right?
Yep, I'm up here in Maine. I moved here about 5 years ago. Actually, when I shifted, I was a tenured faculty professor, almost 20 years working in academia. Dogs were the hobby, and the canine fitness, that was kind of on the side. But when I finally took the leap to take my online business that was already happening, but just go into it full time, my online business was able to let me basically retire early from the university, hand in my resignation, move up to Maine, found some property, built my dream home. And it was
Wow.
all of the online business that allowed me to do that. And that was one of my kind of long-term goals was, I visited up here many, many years ago, over 20 years ago. And I was like, gosh, I would love to be able to live up here. But even on the university salary wasn't enough to have like two homes. And I'm near Mountain Desert Island. I'm on Mountain Desert Island with Acadia National Park.
Oh, I love
It's
that.
like my backyard. And it's a touristy area. There's not a lot of places to work here. So having an online business, it didn't matter. I could work anywhere with high speed internet. So that also let me come and live in an area that a lot of people would maybe love to live at, but it's, there's not like a lot of jobs around here. It's,
Yeah.
it's a touristy area, and we have not a lot of people in the winter here, but yep, up here in Maine.
Definitely. It is an amazing place. We live in our RV, and we spent 2 months in Maine this past summer. So we did Acadia National Park, which is beautiful, and got lots of Tim Hortons while we were there. I'm from Toronto. And so
Okay.
we got there. We're like, wait, what? There's Tim Hortons? It was amazing. Like every night we had to have a special Tim Hortons.
Up here in Maine.
Yes, and we got to see Stephen King's house in Bangor and everything. So that was fun. I love it, love it. And I love just that quick short story you shared of like that journey. That is amazing. Now, how long ago did you kind of start in the online space?
Actually, I started, I've been involved with the online space for over 30 years. I went back and got a doctorate. My PhD is also in education, and my PhD research was looking at the use of hypermedia video cases, and using video in online learning, and how, if we're going to use video for instruction, how can we use it the most effectively? So that goes all the way back to my doctoral studies. Quite a while ago. And so doing things online and helping people move online, and teaching and learning online, that goes all the way back to, like I said, my formal academic training, a lot of research. I've published in international journals, top tier research journals, and have been on committees and organizations and presentations at an international level, with my area of expertise in the academic world, and my other life is in the online learning space. So it is something that I've been involved in for a very, very long time.
Awesome. Yeah. And you're definitely, very popular in the Facebook world where I see your content. So excellent, excellent. I think dog trainers need to be a bit more techy. You definitely jumped on the bandwagon and dove deep. That's amazing. I started with tech when I realized one day that we were making some manual mistakes. We were missing leads. I'd maybe talk to them and then I would never follow up with them.
Yeah.
I definitely saw that I hated following up. I felt kind of stressed about it. And I'm like, I'm Canadian. So I'm like, sorry, I know you reached out to us. Just checking in. And that was like always a stressor for me. And so that actually kind of like gave me like lead management paralysis, where I just was like putting it off, procrastinating. And then other times we're just too busy. So
Yeah.
there was kind of those two issues. And then one day I realized there was software that will help me.
Too.
It doesn't totally remove, the manual follow up, but it shaved off about 10 hours a week. And,
Yeah.
I felt like took care of maybe 70% of my lead management.
Yeah.
And we built our platform on Go High Level, which I think you're familiar with.
Yep. 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 Yeah, definitely. No, I can relate. I would much rather be teaching and designing programs than chasing down leads. And then, when you look and it's like you go through your emails, like, oh my gosh, like this person looked like they'd be perfect my program, and it was 4 weeks ago, and I missed it, and I didn't follow up with them, and that that really makes you not feel so good when you realize there was like some perfect people and they just slipped through the cracks, which definitely happens. And that's another thing that I really like, because who enjoys chasing down leads, unless
Yeah.
that's your full-time job. But yeah, being able to develop, kind of some automated follow-ups. And also when they first contact you, whether you want them to fill out a questionnaire or send them, to your website or fill out a form, or a big thing for me is, I have some higher level programs that I do, and I actually like to have a conversation with each person to make sure that this is the best program for them. Um, I, I want high quality people. I don't want somebody to sign up and then realize it's not the right fit for them. But also, when you have a very comprehensive high end program, whether it's dog training, online business, or whatever, a lot of times, people aren't going to understand the true value of what you provide unless they can get an in-depth conversation. You can do something pre-recorded, but then you miss that human touch. So I definitely automate a lot of stuff, but I find that for selling a high-end program, usually they're pretty comprehensive and there's maybe multiple components to it. It might be very individualized. And the best way to really convey value and to build trust and credibility with somebody who does not know you at all, I feel, is having some real life interaction with them, whether it's
Yes.
talking to them on the phone or video conference call, or meet with them in person. So early on in my online business, I started early with I approached it with my signature program is a high end program. So I wanted to vet through and meet with those people, help them understand the value of the program. I can learn about them to make sure, how am I going to customize that program or speak
Yes.
directly to their needs? And for me, having a 30 to 60-minute conversation, and it's a high end program, and it's even if only 50% of them buy, the money that I'm making on it, it is worth, if I spend an hour of my time and they don't invest, depending on what the conversion rate is, but it was worth my time to go and have that conversation. But of course, you want to convert more than 50%.
Right.
So what really helped me with the automation is part of what I do when I help people, like my clients, is to think about how can we vet through and weed out those people, the tire kickers, the price shoppers, before we get on the phone call or the video call or the in-person meeting, so that you kind of weed them out ahead of time. So that's one of the things that I did really early on in my online business. Was I have a system in place where there's a questionnaire, there's a self-assessment, there's some open-ended questions. And that is kind of the first step, where they can pre-qualify. And those who show a high commitment, and those in that process who show a readiness to go to the next step, they get access to my calendar. The ones that
Nice.
go through that process and the questionnaire and fill out whatever, it's like a little self-assessment that they do. If they're not showing there that they're highly committed, they get a different email response without my calendar. So that made a huge difference. And I saw a big increase in the conversion rate of sales. And once that system's in place, it just, it runs on its own. So as soon as somebody does an inquiry, number one is, when they, that asking them just to simply fill out that questionnaire, that weeds out some people. So one thing people need to be aware of is the more hoops that people have to jump through, you're going to be weeding out people.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a really busy, business and, you need to be very selective in your leads, you'll have more hoops for them to jump through. A lot of people though, they're like desperate. They're like, I need clients. I need
Yeah.
clients. You could still do this. And you could still say, bam, here's my calendar. But what I would do is they could, instead of a delay in the calendar link, they would get the calendar link, but I would collect information from them. And then if it looked like they weren't a good fit, or they would be better for a low end program that I don't need to spend an hour to talk to them to sell it, I would already have that information and I would just reach out to them, and then I would either cancel the call or say, you know what, I don't think this is the best program for you. I actually have this other one. The
Right.
information is on the website. Go there. If you have questions, talk to me. So I'm not spending an hour of my time with somebody who I know they look like they're obviously not committed and ready yet for that higher end program. So, yeah, there's so many different ways, from following up with leads to, attracting the right people and then pre-qualifying people. And that was really, that's a big component of my business, and being able to help to attract and identify those people who are looking for and are ready to make that commitment and that next step forward.
Yeah. And I like what you said about, you're kind of vetting them. So I think that's a great conversation. And a lot of most of our clients are dog trainers and they use our software, and we look at and audit their system flow. Like when the lead comes in, what's happening? Do you call them? Do you email them? Do you email them with your prices and programs right away? Like it's kind of, everybody's different, but
Yes.
as we coach them up and start, adding kind of automations to certain elements of their flow, we are finding that our more successful, like super big dog trainers that are making like well over $1 million a year, up into multi-million dollars a year, they usually have a vetting process, and it's usually like a discovery call. And I feel like that works well, because not that it's the only way, but I like to talk about it, because at first I was like, oh, it seems like so much more work. But the discovery call can be kind of advertised as something quick, and a quick phone call. And people are like busy, they have their kids and their dog and they're frustrated and everything. They just want a quick solution nowadays, just like board and trains are so popular, like take it and fix it. It's accelerated, right? I need that.
Yep.
So I feel like a quick discovery call can be good. But for me, I used to do those discovery calls, and I used to book them for like our salesperson, which is my boyfriend, Brett. And I found that I got in the mindset years ago where I was vetting them. I was pre-qualifying them. I was listening for the good things of like, but that's really all I was doing. And instead of warming the lead and warming them to where they're now booked to talk to Brett, and they're really excited about that. And I was pre-qualified. I was listening. Okay, do you have a cottage? Maybe that means you have, extra income. You have a boat. You want to take your dog on the boat. Like, I'm like, this is going to be a great client. They've got some money. But I was missing that. I'm actually also, once I kind of pre-qualify, I really want to warm the lead and get them really excited, because when they get with Brett, I want them to really invest that time.
Yeah. One of the things that, and there's a lot of different ways you can handle that call. And I think there's a lot of misconceptions about what it can or can't do based on what a lot of people see. A lot of people treat that depending on the process. A lot of people treat it as, they think of it as like a sales call. And, a lot of people, they know they're going to be sold to. It's like, oh, they're going to, want to get on the phone. I'm super busy. I don't have time. And they're just going to try to sell to me. And what I do during those calls is they get a lot of value from that. So even if they don't end up purchasing anything, they always leave with some insight, something very, very, valuable. Cause, when you know your stuff, when you're an expert, a professional, you get a little bit of information from people and right away, like you can give them some very immediate feedback and help build awareness. So, so I think sometimes what people do is they think of it as, the business owner thinks of it as purely a sales call to sell, and then it
Mhm.
can come across as kind of like that pushy, salesy conversation that turns
Yeah.
people away. And so I look at it more as it's because I weed them out first to only pull in the high commitment people. It's like a coaching call. There is value. I don't give them all their answers, but they get a lot of value out of that. But I've already have kind of vetted through to make sure that I'm only talking to somebody who's kind of primed for help. They want help and they're ready to invest in help if it's the right fit.
Right.
Um, so that is one thing that I think for some people, and even me, I've been there when I first started my online business and was having all those calls, is I found that when I went into that conversation and let's say I had a bunch of no, 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 and I'm getting stressed, like, I'm not selling anything, nobody's purchasing. I just had 8 no's, 10 no's in a row. And then you start like hyper focusing on like, I need to sell. I need a client. I need a client. And then I find when I would get into that kind of desperate mindset, you don't sell. It's just,
Yes.
you can pretend to be confident, but so I found that, coming in and saying, I really want to help this person. I really want to listen to them. And, when I caught myself getting stressed over the money and like, I need a client, I had to catch myself because that mindset is, even though, it might not outwardly come out in the words, but it comes out in just the
It's
energy.
yucky. Yeah.
It comes out. And then the other thing, that you made me think about is, in kind of when you're kind of warming and preparing somebody for that conversation, is in our pre-qualifying questionnaire, there's actually like it's like a self-assessment, not a formal assessment, but it's more questions to develop self-awareness. Where are you in this process? Maybe where are they struggling on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident and how comfortable or how consistent are you in blah, 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 whatever it is. And asking questions that aren't kind of some tips that I find is really helpful for me is it's not just asking questions to kind of get information about them and their readiness and you know um, what the problem is with their dog and stuff, but also developing self-awareness and helping them realize how much they potentially need you. And you can do that with the right framing of statements and questions to develop some self-reflection in that process, in that like questionnaire, pre-qualifying, whatever it is you're going to give them ahead of time. So I do canine fitness, and I can't tell you how many times I'll have them. I'll have questions related to what are they currently doing with fitness, what do they know, and how confident are they in developing exercises for shoulders or core, and on a scale of 1 to 10 they'll rate kind of where do they fall, where is their confidence. And I've had so many people when I've had conversations afterwards, where they came to me and they're like, you know what? I thought that I was pretty good in this fitness stuff. I felt pretty confident and I felt like I know a lot. And when I did your little questionnaire, I realized there's so much I don't know. And so what happens is they come to that conversation even more ready because now they thought they just had that problem of like, let me give an example for like a dog trainer, because not everybody listening here is going to be a fitness trainer. So let's say, I need, my dog's pulling on the leash. My dog's pulling on the leash. I just need to hire somebody to help me so my dog stops dragging me down the road. But you can frame those questions before you have a conversation with them to have them reflect on other aspects of their life with their dog and rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, of how confident are you, when you take your dog out, and there's
Mm.
other dogs, and, you know, um, how good is your dog when you have strangers come into the house on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident that you can have anybody walk in and your dog's loose in the house. And so they may come at first saying, well, I just need to hire you to get this dog to stop pulling. But if you can frame and have them reflect in other areas that they're probably going to need more help, they can then come to that meeting and go, you know what? I thought I just needed help with my dog from pulling on the leash, but I took this little questionnaire thing and I realized, there's all these other areas that I'm actually not doing so well in. Um, so I found that could be really powerful to getting them just kind of warm and primed and kind of prepped for that conversation.
Great data too, like to actually have statistics and then be able to kind of compare and
Yeah.
get just a real data. So I have here, I don't know if you could see it. This is upside down. Yep.
Uh-huh.
Oh, there we go. So it's backwards probably on the camera, but this is like our evaluation sheet. Now, when we actually do the sales call, we're asking these questions, and you're so brilliant because, we're asking, are you having problems with barking? How about running away? We're asking these questions, but I love adding on a scale from 1 to 10, because you're
Yeah.
actually getting, and it would be interesting, it's always like, well, it's different for the husband than it's different for the wife. And,
Yeah.
maybe thinking about that too.
Yeah.
And I think as we get on a sales call and we don't have the spouse there, being able to maybe kind of consider some of those questions where you said, like, it was like you feel like you're really underconfident about dealing with your dog in public. How would you think your husband would answer that question? So that you're kind of getting
You both
information
end.
to figure out if you can get on a call with the husband to close them. Now you have a little bit
Yeah.
more information about some of their spots where
You
they might
could
give you pushback.
you could do something like when dealing with when your dog is doing something they're not supposed to, and you need to change the behavior, redirect the dog. On a scale of 1 to 10,
Mm-hmm.
how confident are you that you and your significant other are on the same page?
That's a good
Right?
one.
So it'd
Yes.
be like 10-10, we're in agreement, we're frequently in agreement, or you know what, he always, he or she always disagrees with me. So it could be kind of like, how much do you feel like, how confident are you that you are in alignment, that when you make a decision about how you're going to raise this puppy, or how
Mm.
much, when you're going to, intervene with a behavior, or what is acceptable of, what kind of approaches are we going to take, for training, openness to different tools. On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you rate how confident you are that you and your spouse are on the same page? And then that could be very insightful just right there.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love just getting that more specific data versus like, yes, no, maybe
100%.
so. Yeah, that is excellent tip.
Yeah.
What a wealth of information we're kind of getting from you today. I just love it. Now, let's talk a little bit about tech. Like, what are some of the automations, like a missed call text back or automated follow up? Like, what are some of
Yeah.
your favorite things for a dog training business?
So one thing that I've been doing a little bit more and I need to do more of is nowadays, and we're seeing just in kind of informal and some formal research, people are being much more responsive and getting a much more a higher open rate response rate by things like text message and messenger. And so part of it might also be dependent on dog trainers and business owners and their age. I know, I think like my age group, I think we typically rely a lot on email. And sometimes if you look at younger generations, like I know when I taught at the university, my students never used email, like
Yeah.
they would go days on end and never look at their email. And I was like, I'm on my email. Multiple times a day. And so one of the things, I actually just revised one of my automations. One thing we know definitely is when somebody reaches out, you want to reach out, and whether it's automated or whatever, as soon as possible. The longer that you wait in between, right? They're prime and they're prepped for that. So one of the things that actually I'm in the midst of updating is like I have when people enroll in a course and you get, thank you so much, here's your login and stuff, but people aren't necessarily following up or book a call and they're not booking a call. So one of the things that you can do is when you do that initial contact and let's say that you send them a form to fill out or send them to the website or something like that, is very soon after that, it could be, 15 minutes later or 30 minutes later, just sending an automated quick text message, you know, hey, just wanted to double check, thanks for your, application or submission. Just want to make sure, did you get to the website link? Here it is. Or did you get to the form? And here it is. And just doing like a double, just kind of a follow up, a touching in, just real quick, short and sweet. Like, did you get the information I sent you? Did you get the email? That's another thing, is they might request information. You might automate it. You might have an automation where it sends them the email, but you don't know, like I said, they might not be checking their emails. They might not do much with email. So you could do a real quick automated text message that might go out. I know somebody, I think she sends it out like 10 minutes later. And it's just like, hey, just want to make sure, did you get in? Did you get access? Did you get that email? And just for the follow through. Then the other thing is, I will have people apply for programs, and they will fill out that application. So I'll have, questions, self-assessments. They fill it out, highly committed, 10 out of 10. They're super eager. And then they don't book a call. And I hate chasing down leads and chasing people down. So what I'll do is, and sometimes, did the email end up in spam? Did it end up did they even see the email?
Right.
So an automation there would be, when they fill out the application, they get an automated email reply. And then that automated reply, again, I have mine set up so that if they're highly committed based on the questions, if they're highly committed, they get an automated email, a summary of what they filled out with the email, with a link to my calendar. And then if they are not highly qualified, and they don't show that they're ready to invest and move forward, I'll give them maybe some free resources, or they'll get an email too. And then I have automation where within like 24 hours, I believe, if, again, they fill out an application, they show they're interested, they said they want help, right? They've come to me, so I'm not harassing them. They came to me, they showed they expressed interest, they're interested, they want more, information, they're ready to invest. They've not booked a call. So
Right.
maybe 24 hours later, I'll send another automated email saying, hey, just following up. I'm not sure if you saw my email. Here's my calendar link. And then if they still don't book, I might be 24, 48 hours. And I'll have another email that'll go out. Maybe I don't currently have another text message. I'm just now changing that automation with some more text. But what I'll do is I'll have a couple more immediate follow-ups. And then there might be a little bit of a period of time, and then, following up again. Whereas in the past, I would spend hours and hours and hours just kind of manually trying to follow up with people. So that's one of the things, the biggest mistakes that I see people do. Research shows, I don't know if you've seen it. It's been a while since I read the research, but I think the research shows that typically it takes 7 to 8 of those kind of follow-up like emails before a lot of times people will respond. And I see many, many business owners, they will send out 1 or 2 and they stop.
Yes.
And research shows you need way more than that.
Yes.
And I don't feel guilty for sending 4, 5, 6, 7 follow-ups, because they indicated they are highly interested. And on a scale of 1 to 10 of commitment, 10 to 10, they're committed. I ask, are you ready to invest? Yes, they say they're ready to invest. So they have indicated to me, and that's where the pre-qualifying comes from. They have indicated they are highly interested. They reached out, they filled out the questionnaire. So I will keep following up until they're like, I changed my mind. You know what? Now's not a good time, because they came to me and they showed that high interest. So I know some people, it's really hard because you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to like make them, drive them away. And I don't want them to get super annoyed at me.
But they don't really. They don't. That's what I find.
Especially if they
appreciate it.
And I've had some that'll be like, thank you so much. I totally forgot. I've been super busy. Yeah. I didn't see it. And I see so many people, like I'll work with clients who are business owners, and they'll be like, oh, well, I had 3 people and they seemed like the perfect client. And, they just didn't, nothing happened. I said, did you email them? Did you follow up? Well, yeah, I did. How many times? Well, I left 1 voicemail, or I sent 1 email. I said, did you follow up again? No. keep following
Yes.
up. And they showed they were interested. They want help until you hear otherwise, or you've sent, 7, 8, 9, it's been 3 months for, then okay, eventually. But I see way too many business owners. They are not following up enough, and that's where and part of it is time. Who has time to be calling them 6, 7, 8 times, and that's where
Yeah.
the automation and the technology is really helpful, because you can just set it up and then it follows up. Nowadays you can do with AI, it can do a telephone call, right? Go high level.
Yep.
You can do phone calls, you can do text, you can do email. And but that's the biggest thing. If anybody's listening to this or watching, if you're one of those, and you're doing 1 or 2 follow-ups and nothing else, and part of it is because you just don't have time, you need to look at how technology can help you, because you're losing money. Money is just going out
Yes.
the door if you're not following up with those leads. 100%. Yeah.
Absolutely. I really like the flow where you have them fill out a little form and then they go to the booking calendar. And if they don't book, you're alerted. The system will follow up. And that's like, there's a gap that could be there if you don't have automation there. And that's something that we started building out a while back, and implementing for some of our clients that wanted it. We give them options, but I love that. That's what I have. If you go to my website, petbizexperts.com, and you try to book with me, you have to fill out just a very simple form. Like they say, every form field creates like 20% friction. So it's like, get the name, get the email, get the phone number. And then they go to the booking calendar. It opens up and they're like, okay, Saturday, Friday, whatever. But they have to fill out that form first. Now, if they get to the booking calendar and it's been 5 minutes and they have not booked, I get a message. They're getting a text message like, do you have any questions? Can I help you get booked? And I'm getting a message to call them. Like, hey, we do automation. I saw that you were there and you were trying to book. I am here to answer any questions to help you get booked. And that is an amazing piece just to make sure that that gap is filled. And it sounds like you've got it already built into your system too.
Yeah, and the timing of that, not coming back 4 days later,
Yeah.
or 5 days later, being able to follow up. And that's the thing with with the technology and the AI and the stuff like that is, I was doing something the other day. I was looking at, I didn't even remember putting in my phone number, but I filled out a form. I was looking at pricing charter flights, to be able to fly my dog in cabin with me. So it's not cheap. These are like high-end services, but I was just kind of, well, how much would it cost if I shared a charter flight, a jet, and I flew from here to here and I wanted my dog to be in cabin with me. And I filled out a form just to get pricing, and like right away they called, right? It's like, hey, and
Yes.
calling to see. And I didn't even remember putting in the phone number, but at the time, like, it was something I was sincerely interested in knowing. And I was kind of price shopping to kind of get a sense of what different rates were. And they don't have any of that, a lot of times on the website. So I actually appreciated that, that like almost like right away, right there, I had somebody on the phone and they answered all my questions right then and there, that I had right at that time. But the reason they knew is just like they had that set up into the system. One thing I was going to say, I almost forgot. Take all the high tech out and AI and automation. Let's just kind of strip all of that from the conversation. I still see a lot of dog trainers that are not using an online booking calendar.
Mm,
And I know I've worked
definitely.
with a lot of just because you don't have to get fancy, and if this is AI and you don't use that, and this is kind of kind of a higher level and all new to you, people who are listening. Two things that I see has saved a lot of time for dog trainers I've worked with who are not doing really much or anything with the technology is letting clients pay online and not chasing down payments or doing, even things like monthly payments or memberships or payment plans. Automate it.
Yes.
Like, let the credit card company or PayPal or whatever, and getting people on your calendar, automate it and have an online calendar, because there's still a lot of people that are not taking advantage of those types of things that will save them lots of time. So even at that kind of bare bones level, if people aren't already doing that, we know there's all kinds of reasons, and I hear it, why people want to talk first to the person, or get that in-person check, or do that payment, or I need to have that conversation before I get them on the calendar, because I need to make sure it fits with all my other calendars and all of that. But the way technology is, there's lots of variables that you can do it in, and manage that. But yeah, that right there, I see people, we know, even if you have, some people don't want to move to the online payments and the online processing because it's a little bit more, or you're paying those processing fees. You build those into you build that into what you're charging. But we know, yes, you may have those additional processing fees. Even if you take those costs, you're paying it. You're not putting it on your payments. We know, based on research, you are going to sell more by making it super easy for people to sign up. The
Yes.
more hoops they have to jump through. So even if you had to pay those extra processing fees,
Mhm.
you're going to sell more by making it super easy for them to pay you. I know there's a lot of people that still are not using online calendars, automated booking, and I still know there's a lot of brick and mortar, dog training businesses that are not making it yet super easy for people to pay online. And like I said, there's a lot of reasons. One of the big ones is, those extra expenses. But if you're selling more, it's going to cover those extra expenses.
Yeah, I love those booking calendars. I'm so glad you brought it up. We had one dog trainer we started working with, and we went, live. Takes a bit to, a few weeks to build everything, make it
Yeah.
perfect for his processes. When we went live, that means a booking calendar went on his website, first time ever. We put a chat widget on there, and then the phone number comes in through the system, so the calls are recorded. And just within 24 hours, he had 7 people book on the booking calendar. Now, they had the option to use the chat widget. They had the option to call. They had the option to fill out a contact form, but they went to the book now button. They wanted to skip all of those other things. They didn't need to talk. They just wanted to get to
Yep.
the
Yep.
expert. They wanted to get something on calendar. So I thought that was just really empowering. Also, I think there's something psychological about booking an appointment because I'm more present for it versus if you call me back and I'm like, walking my dog, or I'm in the middle of a conversation with someone else or something. Like,
100%.
yeah. So I think just being more present for it is something you're going to get possibly, hopefully, from the client. One thing I do, because I get it that a lot of dog trainers are like, I don't want the leads to have access to like my calendar and control my day. It'll just be chaos. But we will figure it out. We can make it work. Like for me, I do all of my sales calls for Pet Biz Experts, where I talk with dog trainers and figure out if software is the right fit for them. I just give them my calendar. They book whatever they want and it auto confirms. But I still have some protection there, so it's not mass chaos for me. They can't book same day. So I have like a 12-hour window. So I wake up in the morning, I look at my calendar, and I know exactly what's up. So definitely, if you want more leads coming in, maybe open up so it's like, a 4 or 5 hour window, so people can maybe book this evening for a short call or something with you. You've got options, or hire somebody to be like,
Yep.
all right, I want you to take the calls that are booked between 5 and 7 p.m. because these people, they reached out during the day and they want same day that evening, and I can't do it, so I'm going to outsource it. But maybe just thinking about like protecting your calendar so it's not mass chaos for you, so they can't book same day, but at least they can go ahead and book.
And nowadays, with the technology and the calendars, like you can have multiple calendars speak to each other, so that it'd be like,
Yep.
here's my group classes, here's my board and train, here's when I have to pick up kids from school. And you can have multiple different calendars, and with the technology, make it so that, it will know where the open spots are, or which days it can fill in extra time and which days not. And another thing I see that clients will do is that, their schedules are so crazy that it's kind of like, they're not sure of where those gaps are, and they need to have that, get on the phone or have that email and then see where to put them in. The advantage of doing the automation and looking at the online calendar is if that's how you're running your business, it will benefit you to sit down and say, where's the block of time that I do these calls? Where's the block of time? And be more efficient and more thoughtful and strategic in your daily schedule. Because if it is that you're literally your schedule is like crazy, you don't have any set times and you're just plugging people into where is that open spot. To me, that's a sign that we need to look at your daily schedule. We need to look at your week. We need to look at your calendar, because that's not the most efficient way to run your business. If you're just every day is different, you have no idea where those open spots are. So you can't put up a calendar for them to book. You have to just, no, are you available? Or I can do tomorrow at this time. So that's also, I know a lot of people, they're not ready to go to the calendar system yet, an online calendar, because there's very little structure or consistency, and day to day is different. And so to me, that means, let's look at what your life looks like
Yeah.
and what does your schedule, and what do you want your schedule to look like? If you want your Fridays off, you're a business owner, if you're the business owner, if it's your business, you're a dog trainer, if you want Fridays off, we will make it happen. But you have to be strategic and thoughtful. And so that would be a sign if somebody's like, well, I don't know
Organized.
what day, and I don't know when I have to do this with my son, or I don't know, that's a good reason of why you need to sit down and say, and have a conversation with, if you have a mentor or a coach, or if you have a, somebody you're working with to help you with your business. But that's a really good sign that you probably, you need some structure, because you're not working efficiently that way. And your life is probably pretty hectic and crazy and stressed. And so there are things you can do to fix that. Yeah.
Like in survival mode. And
100%.
sometimes I get that way, but I'm a very organized person, as I'm sure you are too, Erica, just with,
Yeah.
everything, the way you speak. But yeah.
But I'm saying that from experience, because I used to not, when I first started running my business, I did not have experience running a business. And I was desperate for, clients. I was just starting out. So it was like, oh, you want to meet Sunday? Okay, I can meet Sunday. Oh, you want to meet Friday? Okay, I can meet Friday. Tuesday at 2. Oh, Tuesday at 6 p.m. Like, that's what I did when I started my business. And a lot of people do, because you want clients, right? And you think that, well, I'll just take them. And, if they I want my Saturdays off, but they want to talk on Saturday, and maybe I can get them as a client. Okay. So I was working my whole life around, when I could when can they talk to me? And then, you can only do that for so long. You're just going to burn yourself out. And then next thing you know, you're working 7 days a week and you have no consistency. Or I found that it'd be like, okay, I'll have my day off, but I have this call at 7 p.m. Psychologically, it's not really the same as your day off, because you have that hanging over your head. You've got this call, you got to do it at 7 p.m. So I'm speaking from experience, because I didn't always, my calendar was not always like this. And then I was working 7 days a week, morning to dusk and late at night. And then it was like, I can't, and then you're not enjoying your business. And then I was doing it where I was doing a Facebook Live every single Friday for 3 years. And I'm like, I want my Fridays back. And so, and I just looked at my calendar and said, you know what? I don't want to work on Saturdays with clients. I don't want to have meetings, on a Friday. And maybe I'm all booked out over the next 2 to 3 months or 4 months or 5 months. But every year I kind of reassess, what do I want for my life and my business? And I'm like, no, I want my Fridays off now, or I want my Saturdays and Sundays off. And you might not know right now how to make it happen. But if that's important to you, if you're the business owner, you can make it happen. It just takes some, being strategic. And so I see a lot of business owners, and I've been there, it's like, there's a potential client, you need money, you need a client, but that is not sustainable for the long term.
Yeah, so much to unpack there. Wow. One thing that I definitely wanted to touch on is when I say to somebody, how's, like, today's Friday, we're speaking now. So if I say, how's tomorrow for you? How's tomorrow morning for you? And then I don't hear back. Well, if I don't block off tomorrow morning and someone else takes that spot, what happens when they show up tomorrow morning? Like, okay, I'm ready. Are we still doing this? So that's why I like sending them a booking calendar and never promising, like, how's Wednesday for you? Because
Yeah.
I don't want to get any negative, like, from the client, or I forget. And I'm like, I told them Wednesday and I told someone else Wednesday. I just like, here's my calendar. You figure it out. Go
Yep.
for it. Because if I promise anybody a time, I have to go into my calendar and block it off because I have to, or because I've had that happen where people are
Yep.
like upset because like, but you promised me the spot.
It's on, yeah, yeah. And then, oh, also the online, the reminders,
Mm.
because that is it's been to me, like I've been out in the middle of the field training my dog, and it's like, oh shoot, I got a phone call in 10 minutes, and I jump in my
Yes.
car. It's like I gotta hurry up and get back to my computer. But that's also the nice thing about the automation is they're more likely, because you get those people like, oh, I forgot, they booked a call with you, but getting those automated reminders and text message reminders saying, hey, don't forget you've got that meeting. So definitely I've seen, being able to do those automations. I have very, very low instance of people not showing up for a scheduled meeting.
Nice.
And I think a lot of that, a lot of that is to, that I send out, there's multiple reminders that they will get. And also, I do kind of that vetting and kind of pre-screening.
Yes.
So there's some level of commitment before they book a call, because they had to have at least some initiative to at least fill out a questionnaire, or, do at least something to show some initiative on their part just to book the call. But that's another great benefit of those online calendars is, and in some of the calendars, like they'll have an automation, or at least one automation automatically, or one or two reminders, but you can build in all kinds of, as Leanne, you could, if they book out a week in advance, you can say, 4 days before, you can have an automated email. I want to get some information on your dog. And then, you know, 24 hours before, you can send out a different type of email, and you can build all kinds of nice things with that.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And one other thing, too, that you'd said was back to some dog trainers don't even use like an online calendar. They're pencil and paper. And I think just for those folks, just getting a Google Calendar
Mhm.
and just start using it. But if you have a team, and I was a young female dog trainer going to people's homes, and, no one knew where I was, and I'm down in some guy's basement, and, you want to know where your people are. So if you have a team, like Erica mentioned, like you can have, the appointments on the calendar show conflicts. So, Sarah's not going to be, booked at the same time as Leanne would be booked for. Like everybody has a different calendar, but it's all shared in one place. So everybody on the team knows where it is, where everybody is. And that way, if like Justin's doing seminars this weekend, and Melanie's over here answering the phones, like everybody knows where everybody is as a safety thing too, especially for the lady dog trainers, the young girls, because a lot of new young girl dog
Mhm.
trainers go into people's homes. And I think having like a shared calendar, knowing where
Know where they
everybody's
are.
at is important.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, it's yeah, I just wanted to mention that, because I know I'm sure there's people listening, and they're like, oh, AI and all this and automation is like, let's just let's get your online payments going, and,
Yes, online payments,
and
yes.
get your get your calendar going, and the automated reminders. Like I said, that I really like that with the, because what I'll even do is, on my booking calendars, I book myself on there, because I'll just be like, oh, I got that dentist, or I've got that interview, so I book myself at, like a client on there, because I want those reminders too.
Yes.
So I have my own calendar, and it just, I'll book my own little time spot, and get all those automated reminders and text messages just like my clients, and it's helpful.
Yeah, one of the things too that I just thought of that dog trainers should have is some kind of process internally for your team, because generally, you're a lot of them have somebody. Maybe it's their wife sometimes helping out with the phones, and they're not really in the business. But if you have more than one of you on your team, just having like a channel on WhatsApp or Vox, or a communication thread where you can internally track things. With our platform, you have like internal communication, you have internal notes, which is really
Mhm.
good. And just a lot of ways to communicate information on the team. So like if I take a discovery call and I know right out of the gate, they're really frustrated with their dog because he's pulling on the leash. I want to make sure I relay that to the sales guy who's going to talk to them so
Oh
he
yeah.
can make sure he pushes that emotional hot button. So having like notes somewhere, even if you write it down and then take a picture of, that evaluation sheet that you filled out and
Yeah.
saving it somewhere in their contact record or something, so that you can relay the information back and forth, especially if it's aggressive dog or something like that, of course, or a difficult client, stuff
Or
like
just
that.
to remind yourself, 'cause I'll go through a day where maybe I teach and then I have maybe 3, 4, 5 phone calls,
Mm.
potential clients. I promise you, I don't know if it's just me or,
Yep.
but at the end of the day, like I'll be talking, like with somebody at the end of the day and they'll be like, oh, how did your meeting go? Or how did you, and I'm like, what, who did I meet? I don't even remember. Like, what did I can't even remember at the end of the day. Like, who did I talk to? Which meeting was it? And so, yeah, I use those kind of internal notes, for my own kind of refresh, kind of what I did. Cause yeah, if I got like 5 conversations throughout the day at the end of the day and I'm tired, I don't even like, especially if they're potential clients and I don't know who they are. Um, and I have 3 or 4, 5 back to back. I'll be like, go look and who is this person? I can't remember which dog did they have? Was this person the
Totally.
sport person or the agility person or the obedience person? And I can't remember if I didn't take the notes. So I find that really helpful. Oh, I was thinking, it's almost slipped my mind. I was thinking also, with the follow up, not just with the follow up and following up leads, but also onboarding. Research shows, especially like with the online stuff, but when people have a really positive experience when you onboard a new client, when you're bringing them on for the first time, those first interactions and impressions with you set the stage for everything. And we've got some research, like, some of the research they've done, I believe it was with some of the online onboarding, that if people had that positive impression and that very first, when they first were being welcomed on board as a client, the research was showing that they were much happier and much more satisfied with the course and with the program. And so doing things like building in some automation where you're prepping people for that first lesson or before they even come and meet with you in person can really set the stage and give them a really good
Mm.
experience, before they ever even start with that first session with you. And at the university, I would, many years ago, I saw this, in effect with my university students because I was, teaching kind of traditional in class, meeting them in person. But what I would do before, maybe a week before classes started, is I would send out an email, I would introduce myself, and I would make a video and I would just send out, kind of getting started. And here's the things you need to know before class when we meet in a week. And when we would go and meet the students for the first time in person, they would make comments. And when I would get feedback from them, and they said, it felt like I already knew you, and they were all it felt
Yes.
like they had already met me, and they were already building that relationship with me, and we were already building, and we could even do, like, sometimes in my online courses we would do like an online group call, so they would come to that very first session or the very first class and we were already building community for a group, we were already building trust and building that relationship. And I noticed that when I started doing that, the way that I was connecting with my students and, on a personal level, and just that relationship with them was, it was better and it was
Yes.
different when we very first started, actually meeting in person. So that onboarding and bringing them on as a client, and what you do between when they sign up before you actually meet with them for that first class, whether it's in person, group, one-on-one, boarding, they drop their dog off. That's a really important time that can really set the stage and set the tone for their entire experience with you, as being your client.
Absolutely. Yes, such great tips here. And I think for every phase of the lead's journey, as you know, they come in, if they're experiencing a bit of automation, a bit of manual responses, maybe a phone call here and there, it's going to increase the value of your
100%.
program. And I promise you, the other dog trainers up the street, they're not following up. They're not being communicative. And people aren't going to want to work with them. They're going to want to work with you because you're staying in front of them, and they're just getting such a good feeling with that. It's customer service. Even though it's automated, it's customer service, and they don't know it's automated. Your name, your personal name, not just like, hey, Pet Biz Experts over here. Like, it's Leanne from Pet Biz Experts. It's Erica from Northeast Canine, right? Northeast Canine. So, yes, and definitely we need to talk about where to find you too. But getting your personal name in there so that by the time they get to meet you and start, they feel like your best friends. They're like, thanks for texting me earlier. And it's like, okay, well, that was automation, but they don't know that. It feels manual.
Yeah, yeah. So that's another thing that once you start getting these things in place, and if you have the technology and the tools to help you, and even just starting out, when I was at the university, I was just sending the emails out, but I did. I found that a lot of times when I was working with other professionals and faculty members, a lot of people were very resistant to this. People still are resistant to going to the online aspect and the automations and stuff, is because they feel like they're losing the personal connection.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the examples I gave when I was at the university and I was combining and doing a hybrid model. So we have some in person and some online, and then we have the online communications, is I actually had a better relationship and a stronger personal connection with my clients, with my students, when I had that hybrid. And it if you compared, and there's research that shows this on learning, teaching and learning. They've done research where they looked at where people were learning just face to face, and then they looked at when used effectively, right? There's some bad
Yeah.
models of online learning, but they looked at when people were learning just face to face, and then they looked at when people were learning with online aspects integrated in to help the learning process. And they have research that shows for the learner, people were actually learning better and were learning more when they had that hybrid versus just solely face to face. So one of the things that I help business owners in kind of integrating, either moving some or all of their business online, or doing like online instruction or teaching or online coaching or online video libraries, is if you are a brick and mortar business and you see all your clients face to face, you can add a lot of value. Just think about if you could go and here's an example. You work with clients and there's some common questions, like there are things that you're teaching over and over again. You're saying the same thing over and
Yes.
over, right? There's certain things that every client, and they're all struggling with the same thing. And there's
Mm-hmm.
certain things that you're just repetitive and you're teaching the same thing over and over. What we found for some dog trainers is taking some of that content and pre-recording it. And so I had one dog trainer where she was doing at first all in person. And what she did was she took some of that stuff that is like everybody needs to know. It's kind of the same questions. It's the stuff you're teaching over and over. And she pre-recorded it.
Yeah.
And then she would say, okay, before we meet, go watch this video and go watch this instruction and then come and meet with me. And it took her it was like fast track, and it took them to a whole nother level of training, because they would come to her if they watched a video or two kind of prepping them. They were starting their very first session as if it was like their second or third.
Love it.
And one of the things, in addition to the canine fitness, that I help people is kind of growing or expanding online, whether it's, building a video library that your dog training clients, when they go home, they have a follow up and they can go when you're not there and they can watch the videos or get video feedback. But there are a lot of ways, I think, a lot of non-traditional businesses that we typically don't think of being online, like dog training. You really don't think about more and more, but that's not the first thing you think of for an online business is dog training. But for those of you that are, doing the in-person and the face-to-face and the brick and mortar, there is a lot of value and a lot of ways that you can really add value and enhance and
Definitely.
support the owners by doing a hybrid. It doesn't mean do all your training online and you're teaching, dealing with dog aggression and telling them what, there's a lot of ways that you can be supporting and helping and mentoring and educating the dog owners by doing kind of like a hybrid model. It doesn't, I know some people when they hear like, dog training and online, or you can't train a dog online, but there's a lot of ways that you can support the owner in that hybrid model. So that is something, kind of a different way. With my business, we do the stuff that you do, Leanne, is so important in helping with the technology and the software. Because, you're a dog trainer, you're a business owner, you don't want to spend 10 hours a week trying to figure out a software program, right?
Yeah.
So one of the first things I did was I hired somebody to manage some of the software that I just didn't want to spend the time dealing with the software. So that what you're doing and helping them, kind of set up the automations and deal with the software, like a business owner, they could do it themselves, but there's a learning curve and they have to
Mm-hmm.
learn. And like, I like technology but there's only so many hours of the day.
Yeah.
So that what you're providing them, that kind of helping them with the technology and the software, and they don't have to sit and learn how to do the software themselves. Like they can say, here's the email, or here's the text, or here's what I need to want to go out. Can you just set it up for me? Like that's
Exactly.
invaluable. But then there's the other side kind of, that I also help people with is like, if you want to how do you do the online instruction? What if you want to do virtual coaching? What if you want to do an online webinar? That's a whole nother, thing of technology out there. But those are some of the other things that I help people with also with there's so many things that you can do and how it can help support you and make your business more efficient and help your clients have a better experience. So, I do see still a lot of resistance when people hear technology in a field in a business that you don't first think of as being a techie type company. So hopefully people who are listening that might be a little like, where does technology fit into this? It really can help you do a better job in the things that you do well and have more time to work with the dogs and work with the owners. So there's a lot of benefits to it beyond just what we're talking about.
Yeah, my mind is just blown. I love how you're not gatekeeping with any of your wisdom and you're so open to sharing and helping everybody. I love it. And you gave me an idea too, as you were saying, like, because it's hard sometimes to make a video and it's like, I'm going to make this video. I teach this every day. I say it again and again and again. And 5 years later, I finally make the video. But maybe
Yeah.
if you're okay doing a Zoom with a client, maybe when you got that board and train dog and you're just, can jump on a Zoom and have the dog right there and be like, hey, yeah, he's doing great. We're just doing a check-in, midweek check-in. And
Yeah.
I sent you over some homework and blah, blah, blah. Keep it short. They could see their dog.
Yeah.
And, maybe just little additions like that to your programs to make them feel really taken care of and add a little bit of that hybrid thing. I hadn't heard that. That is just amazing. Amazing
Yeah.
information.
Like I said, there's research as far as like part of your job as a dog trainer, you have to educate the owner
Mm-hmm.
because you're not there 24/7. Eventually, if you do board and train, the dog goes home. And the owners are not the experts. They are not dog trainers, or they wouldn't be sending the dogs to you. So even if I know dog trainers are like, I don't want to deal with people. Like, I just want to deal with the dogs. But if you want to help, the best way to help the dogs is you have to educate, you have to motivate, you have to inspire, and you have to be there for the owners. And like I said, research shows when done right, when you're integrating that hybrid in person and online and having, ways to support the owners, there are many, many ways that you can help support them and educate them by through a hybrid model of your business. And you still can retain very much if you want that in person, working with them live. But there's a lot of additional ways that you can add value and support and build relationships and build trust and build credibility by integrating just some simple type of things with the online hybrid approach.
Just amazing,
Mm.
amazing value that you're giving dog trainers today. And I think this is kind of a segue into our next planned podcast where maybe you can give a little teaser. We're going to have you talk about your educational background and how you can help them to better teach the owner.
Yeah, so another, I feel like I have multiple lives. So from the dog and the fitness, and and I have the human fitness and the academic background. But yeah, one of my backgrounds and my PhD, and I have a lot of decades of training and experience in just teaching and learning. Teaching and learning working with animals, but teaching and learning with humans, and adult learning, and how do adult learns best, and not just how do they learn best just kind of psychologically and emotionally, but also how do we learn best like when we bring in technology. And so one of the things, I have an online certification program in canine fitness. It's a certified canine athlete specialist. It's kind of like a train the trainer. So we teach dog trainers and dog competitors and handlers. We teach them about canine fitness, and we teach them um, how to build fitness programs for the dogs. But we get a lot of dog trainers who are helping owners. So for certification, they are in a position when they've studied with us all the way to the end to get certified. Our dog trainers can actually teach fitness. That not only build a fitness program for a dog, but how to teach the owners and how to educate the owners to implement fitness, and how to maybe do fitness seminars and workshops. So part of it is teaching people who aren't, coming with teaching credentials, and their
Mm.
background is not an educator background. Some of the dog trainers are teachers, and they do have that background, but most of them don't come in with formal training and how to teach humans, and how do humans best learn, and how can we most effectively change people's misconceptions. That was another part of my research, is changing people's beliefs and people's misconceptions, and it's very hard to change habits and beliefs. So I have decades of experience in education and research in this. So when you're working with dog owners, you are dealing with a lot of misconceptions.
Hmm.
You are dealing with changing beliefs, and you are in the role of not only training the dog, but you are in the role of you have to educate the owner. Because if not, nothing's going to change when the dog goes home. So you have to educate the owner, but you're also instilling changing actions and changing habits, which is really, really hard to change our habits. They come to you as a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, a 50-year-old. They have a lot of habits ingrained in how they interact with their dog that have been there for a long time. So what I do when I work with dog trainers and business owners is, in our program, I can tap into all of that knowledge that I have in teaching and learning and education. And in our program, we have some videos, and we have an activity where they have to go and work with a handler and work with a dog and teach fitness and practice it and give feedback to the owner. And what I see, and this is not just dog trainers, because I've prepared teachers, K through 12 university educators. This is common in K through 12 schools and teacher education also. But frequently what we see when people are first learning how to educate others is there's a lot of talking at them, telling them what to
Yes.
do and telling them how to do it. And let me show you how, and here's why your dog did that. And let me show you what to do differently. And that's really important, but that's not the most effective way. If you want that dog owner to change their belief system, to change how they view their dog, to change how they think about dog training, if you want them to really embrace what it is that you're teaching, you really need to do it in a way that's going to hit them at a much deeper level than do this, do this, do this, and do that. And so part of that is how you respond, how you do feedback, how you tap into that self-reflection, because we know in research on this is when you can get the learner, so your client, your learner, when you can get them more self-aware, then it increases motivation. It
Hmm.
increases follow through. How many times you have dog trainers saying, they go home, they don't practice, they're not doing anything I taught them. So when you have self awareness of what they know, what they don't know, what their motivations are, we know that self awareness builds more awareness, more motivation, better learning, better follow through. And so when we're teaching in the way we teach and educate the dog owner, we're not really taking advantage or tapping into that when we're teaching in this very kind of, let me show you, let me tell you, in this very kind of didactic mode of teaching. And like I said, this is not just dog trainers, when we're working with new teachers and they're just learning, at the university how to teach fourth grade students. This is something, it's not uncommon to see. And even at the university, when people don't have the educational pedagogical background, you'll see university, faculty and they're teaching. That's part of also what I've done is helped, people at the very high levels. So that is, like I said, that's another area of my background and expertise. And so, I kind of, it does kind of bleed in through when I'm doing canine fitness and, working with dog trainers. And so, there are certain things, some simple things to, just asking questions, the kind of questions, the self-reflective, like we just talked about.
Yes.
You can build this into your dog training and how you interact with the dog owners so that you can start tapping into also more accountability. So helping them take on more accountability, more self-awareness, more motivation, and more follow-through. And the typical way that I see many, many, many people teaching and educating and training, not just in dog trainers, the way that they're doing it is not the most effective way to instill follow-through, change of beliefs, change of habits, and instilling that deeper learning. I would love to carry on a conversation where we can tap into that. And what would that look like, with the dog trainer interacting with a client?
Yes. Wow. I'm so excited. Like I could just see like just like a switch flipped and like, this is going to be exciting. My mom's a teacher, so I'm like,
Oh,
she's going to want to watch this one too. I'm so excited about that. So we'll definitely get that scheduled. There's just so much help that you've given dog trainers today alone. And I'm so excited about the next episode too. Just outstanding, Erica. I appreciate it. Could you share a little bit about where people can find you?
Yep. So if you go to Northeast Canine Conditioning, it's the letter K and the number 9, Northeast Canine Conditioning. We've got a website, Instagram, Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, in LinkedIn by my name, Erica Boling. But I would say I'm the most active on Facebook. But if you just look at Northeast Canine Conditioning, like I said, you'll see on our I would say most of the dog world knows us through the canine fitness. So, like I said, we have the Certified Canine Athlete Specialist, a certification. Our most popular, most comprehensive online program is called our Elite Canine Athlete Program. And you can just go to elitecanine.com. Again, it's the letter K, the number 9, and download the brochure or go to the website. But that is a program. It's not just dog trainers. Anybody who wants to learn about canine fitness, improve. We specialize in sport and working dogs, but you can carry it over. We have a lot of dog trainers who compete, but their clients are pet dogs. So you can carry it over, that fitness, into the pet dog world too. But if you go to our website, you'll see the Elite Canine Athlete Program. That's our most comprehensive program. It is the first step to becoming certified. If you want to add a certification, we have a course specific for working dogs, like police dogs, detection dogs, search and rescue dogs. It's called the Mission Ready Canine. So it's kind of a handler course for the kind of some of the working dog people. And then we have a less comprehensive, a canine peak performance program for also for people interested in fitness for their dogs. But we also have what's called a canine business mastermind program. And it is a program for those people who are interested in learning more about kind of, if you're interested in like, what would a hybrid business look like? What if you wanted to do like offer virtual coaching to clients or build your own video library? Or I've helped people create their own online academies and their own online certification programs or train the trainer programs. Doing things like, social media, doing things and growing social media to build your presence online. So it's kind of a different lens of kind of on the technology spin, Leanna. Kind of what you do is important, and we integrate that type of technology into all of our clients. But anybody who's interested in learning more about what would a hybrid dog training business look like? What if you wanted to move more online or fully online? What would that look like? And how would you market it and offer it? How would you find clients? Part of it is using tools like Leanne is talking about. How would you do virtual coaching? So it's, teaching people online is not the same. And there's the whole area of motivation, right? When you're working with them and they're right in front of you, that's one level of follow through and accountability. But when you're online, there's a whole lot of other things you need to think about. And so if that's something that any of our listeners or viewers are interested in, the Canine Business Mastermind is where we work with business owners who are interested in that aspect of the online component.
That's
So
awesome. And I think too, like we talked about your lead flow, I think people may want to just go to your website and fill out a form so they can kind of experience a bit of automation. Same with my website, go to petbizexperts.com, fill it out. You can book the appointment, you can cancel it and see what happens. When you cancel it, we will follow up. Like it's automated. So it's good for people to see.
There's two. I'm glad you mentioned that. One is I have two key ones. One is called the Canine Biz Quiz. So it's the letter K, the number 9, Biz Quiz, caninebizquiz.com. So you could see there's some self-reflective questions to reflect on your business. And then the other one is called the Canine Fitness Quiz. So that would be specific to fitness related questions. And if you want to look at how you might frame it for dog training clients, the questions on the Canine Fitness Quiz would be more easily for you to see how you might go, oh, I could see how I could ask a question like this for a dog training client. And then again, that's the letter K, the number 9, Canine Fitness Quiz. The Canine Biz Quiz is more business related questions. So you'll see how I ask on a scale of 1 to 10 to ask you to reflect upon your own business. It's not just fitness, it's for just any kind of canine business professional. But I would say if they want to see like the types of questions that might help them think about, a non-fitness dog training business, check out the Canine Fitness Quiz also. And they can go through and see there's about, I think 20 questions on a scale of 1 to 10. There are a couple little short open-ended questions. And then you'll see at the end, go all the way to the end, because you will see commitment questions. And there's 3 questions that will ask about your commitment level to learn about fitness and to get help about fitness. And if you do that, there's a certain number that we use of what we consider as high committed. So if you answer those 3 commitment questions at a higher level, it rates you as highly committed, and you'll get an email with my calendar link. And then if you rate out of those 3 questions, if your total score is a little bit lower, as indicating lower commitment, you'll get a different email. So yeah, definitely if anybody wants to see how that automation works. And if you're interested in canine fitness or canine business, go check it out.
That is awesome. And I'll get those links from you so we can drop them in the video too. Perfect. So thank you so much, Erica. This has been just awesome. I appreciate it. I'm so excited about the next one. And so everybody that's listening, thank you, Erica Boling. And I'm Leanne Shinton from Pet Biz Experts. We are going through a name change, so it's easier for people to find us because there's a lot of pet biz related businesses out there, and it's going to be a lot easier for folks to find us. Our new name will be Automation Dogs. So we'll be under both names for a while, but we figured we would just rebrand so it's easier for folks. And so thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for having me.